to the rise of the green tide. So of course, this list was the #1 orc performing list. This comes from High Stakes 40K, so check him out on YouTube himself. He has his own channel, but he's actually a member of the Great WAAAGH. He's been here for a long time, and his name's Damien. So Damien came forward with his green tide and performed with a perfect 500 point double win path here. So let me erase some of these other things that I have up. And he was actually happy enough to give us some notes for the Great Wall so we can talk about it and actually learn from this as well. So here's his path. Boom. He was very prepared. He overcame a lot of grudges, a lot of grudge matches and people he wanted to overcome at this event. So congratulations to him and happy for that. He gave us some notes that we can talk about and go over as to what he was feeling like. So he's active in the Discord, so a lot of people can say what's up to him. Make sure you leave him a comment to give him some love for him taking the time to do this. So here is his list, pretty straightforward. And there was some good questions that were brought up in the Discord themselves when we actually look at this list that were brought forward. So first of all, if you look at on the BCP, it says that the weird boy was on his own and not with the 20 boys. He said that he definitely had the boys and the weird boy attached as a unit. So that was intentional. That's exactly what he wanted it to be. Therefore, that's how we're putting it on because that's how it was played in the event. The next big thing that we should talk about that should be pointed out here is he was playing it as the rule is written currently. And I know that there has been some events, some people that are ruling it differently. So always make sure you ask your TO. But what I'm talking about here is that he has 2 leader characters and a support unit on his 20-man unit. So on 3 of his mobs, he has double leaders and a support unit. Now I know that some people are saying they rule against it. He was asked about it. If he did this, it's okay. He would still bring the units down to just being 1 leader and a character. He could bring in another 20-man unit of boys. He would drop the DACA rig if he wanted to as well. So there was a lot that he could still do with that. He said he would probably bring in a commando if that was the case as well. So there was things that he could still do with this that it wouldn't change it too much. He gave multiple options out. So like I said, unit 1, Big Boss, Gazgul, Painboy, 20 boys. Amazing combo. Obviously, what we're going here is we're going to give Gaz is now getting sustained from the Big Boss, and then Makari is giving the unit lethal. So it's lethal 5+, sustain lethal 5+. On the wall for that, absolutely blending anything. This unit was super fundamental to this because on the priority asset matchup or on the opponent's take and hold matchup, he had this unit that could just destroy anything in the game for him, he said, right? So when the people would say, well, I'm playing this mission, I'm going to full commit for my take and hold, put this weird killie or this death ball or this hyper elite tanky unit here. Well, Gaz with the Big Boss is a Warhorde equivalent unit brought to the green tide. Honestly, maybe even better because you have full rerolls to wound in this. So it makes it crazy potential into this. And so yeah, that was actually a highly important unit. And so if that changes, if people decide they're not allowed to do this, then of course that would make that pool a little bit less viable, but very important for what it was and how it was being run. The second unit was a Big Boss and then a War Boss and a Pain Boy. He had Brutal but Cunning on there. This detachment as a whole is very, very, very important on CP, right? It lives off CP for all the green tide and for its tactical brigade utility, which we'll talk about that as well, because this is not green tide and more DACA, right? This is green tide and tac brigade. So this is like green tac. So the reason why he had the Big Boss and the War Boss, very straightforward. He wants these units just to their killing potential. So he's giving them sustain. He wants the War Boss to get into that fight. Pain Boys regrowing dudes back up all over again. Bada bing, bada boom, pretty straightforward. The Weird Boy and the 20 boys, this is for whenever he had to be aggressive. He had a WAAAGH Guts mech. Now, as for the WAAAGH, it was really just a disruptor. He really sometimes just need to focus on an enemy unit that he has to kill. If it's an elite unit, sometimes he has to tag an enemy unit early. to kind of get them from getting into a firing lane or being able to really interact with him that he in the way that he risk on his normal boys. So WAAAGH was really just a hunter fundamentally working on his own and typically an early game commitment tool. And that's how he always liked them. As for the Big Mac Rig and the 2 Gretchen, he liked the Gretchen because one was always trying to get on another objective to try to score more CP farming, and they were small enough that they could just toe in on there. They appreciate being hidden, and also he needs to screen his backfield. He did say that Big Mac rig was fine, like he liked it. It did its job for the most part, but it wasn't vital, and he's fine not having it on the list and maybe replacing them with a commando unit. So how this list ended up playing out a lot of the time, because just to kind of play it out in your head as we look at these matchups, as we're going he kind of like a rinse and repeat thing as we seen earlier with the bully boys too, is he is very aware of how hidden can benefit him, yet that if he tries to live off it and hold his position, that the enemy can come crashing down on him first. So it's very much a lot of stage up with a whole bunch of mobs, get the enemy to commit a little bit, and then full wall, use that first layer of guys to control the space, and then to get the commitment from the enemy. So as we look at these matchups, keep in mind that this was his plan and the dynamics behind how he runs this list. I love that he has 100 boys on this list, and he still has those characters that he can have as well. So like we said, if you can't take all these characters, it's fine. You just end up just taking some of those characters and put them into the 20-man unit of boys, using some of those leftover points to get some commandos on the list. Bada bing, bada boom, no problem. So let's move on to his matchup because we have some notes from them. Yeah, and hopefully we can just play it out because I love Green Tide and I'm really glad that he did great. Ooh, one thing I should mention here what's the point of Tactical Brigade? So Tactical Brigade here, and if it's crucial, if it's a big deal, right? He said it's 100% crucial because of the fallback reactive moves that you have available here. So when you use one of these big mobs to get into a fight, specifically Gaz's, right? Let's say you get into a fight, you kill something, and then you can consolidate and tag something else. The enemy typically has to fall back from you in order to interact with that 20-man unit with their full potential. You reactive move 6 closer to them. Now you're also still holding CP in your back pocket for a surge move. So if the enemy after wants to double whammy combo you with offense, you always have the potential to fall back into them closer. And you can't necessarily into them with Tactical Brigade detachment, but you can get closer to them, and then you can surge into them and actually be into combat with them on grounds that they don't want to be in. So really, a lot of the time was just once you made contact with your wall unit, you touch as much stuff as possible. That way, when the enemy falls back from you, you can get a nice 6-inch move off of that, and then a surge move off of that and keep the momentum going into the enemy. So for this to work the way that he wants it to, you always want to be Tactical Brigade. Yeah, forget all the shooting, all that fancy shenanigans, wasting any points on DACA units. You simply bring one DACA rig, I guess in this case, a WAAAGH DACA, and then you just bring a bunch of boys and you just keep the momentum up with movement shenanigans, which is very, very awesome to see, and I actually loved it, right? So that being said, now let's go back to the path to victory. Before we jump back into the video, shout out to Monument Hobbies and their Pro Acryl paints. If you're an orc player, you already know the pain of painting mobs of models, vehicles, bikers, walkers, too many lads at once. And that's why I like Pro Acryl. The paint is high quality, easy to work with, and comes with properly thin paint right out the bottle, which means less time fighting with your paints and more time getting your wall on the table. So whether you're a new orc player and joining the Great Wall, or you're trying to finish another 20 gits before your event, and check out Pro Acryl paints from Monument Hobbies using my affiliate link in the description. It helps support the channel and no extra cost to you, because the faster you paint, the faster you wall. So first game, all these are 100, so it's obviously going to sound really awesome when he goes into it. This was Knights. They had Purge, I believe. Boom, right there. All right. So Knights Castellan, Knights Crusader, Knights Errant, double Helvrin, triple Warglaive, and then a Watch Captain Artemis. All right. So as for his note, as he was saying here, he said, to be honest, this person was a new player and that he was able to pretty much overrun them at will. I have played into Knights with Tide or just a lot of boys as a whole. They do struggle with being able to clear unit with full without fully committing scoring like too many points that the boy's worth, and then in response you're able to get a wall off them. If they're a new player and they go for one of your mobs, sure, they might kill it all, but then they're super susceptible to being run down with everything else. Gaz being able to blow them up, and then you kind of just hold them in position and keep beating them on OC. So really about knights, it's you kind of encroach on their space until they attack you, and then you're like, well, I can reroll wounds. I have my characters in these units, quite punchy, kind of a favor matchup in most cases. But high level knight players have their ways to deal with hordes. So then we go into his second matchup, a little bit more interesting here. It was into Adeptus Custodes with Purge as well. So there's a shield captain with Dawn Eagle Jetpike, 1, 2, 3, 4 units of guardians. 2 of them were big bricks, and then the other ones were the 4-mans or whatever. We have 1 Telamon Dreadnought, triple Land Raiders, 1, 2, 3 for the venerable Land Raiders, and then double Witch Seekers. So this is a commonly popular competitive list of Custodes, right? Fully elite, load up the Land Raiders, Guardian battle lines up the field. Guardians can shoot a bunch of volume with small arms, reroll the wounds on that. Hyper effective in combat, pretty cool in that way. So in this one, he said that he was very aggressive, as in Damien was very aggressive, because he understood that this game needed to be just a straight full throttle bash matchup where he needed to just make contact with the opponent, kill as much stuff as they could, and dwindle their killing potential. So that being said, he did put himself in a position where he was aggressive, and the enemy had the chance to attack him first. But it was kind of like bait because it was an intelligent risk, right? He said that there was an 8-inch charge on another and a 5-inch charge on the other side. So he knows that the opponent either A, is going to make one of those charges, or he's going to make both of them. And if he makes both of those charges, he can do an interrupt, so he can still get his chunk of flesh off on that side of the field anyways. Or he's just going to make one charge on that side of the field, whichever one he gets it off, and it still allows him to complete his plan of fully tiding over the custode player. So nonetheless, he's like, I'm still going to stay right on the line. That way I can project my aggression outward forward to the opponent, and not just take too much time to get closer to him, allowing him to score. Because the idea is crash into him, start destroying him, dwindle his ability to even purge you anymore, keep scoring your points as much as possible. Therefore, it's like make as much contact as he can quickly. So he said in this case, the enemy fell both his charges. Therefore, he was able to just straight up charge and table him. So Damien was able to table him. He said the list just simply didn't have enough damage to deal with him. A lot of the points were like in the Land Raiders, which had, those God Laz hammers that are just like, all right. And once you just kill like 2 of the Guardian units, he just doesn't have the volume. So very competitive list in theory, but not in this matchup. So then we go into his third game, which is into Salamanders. Now, he said this was a very, very risky and dangerous game. So this is Salamanders, the Forged Fathers, and this was Disruption as his forced disposition, 3 of them here. He said this was a game that he was on the edge for because he knew that this was his horror matchup. Ton of damage, ton of flamer dudes, and they can just straight up delete boys at will. So this was when he used the control space strategy with his boys, which is also why when he said he would drop a more Docker rig, or if he couldn't use 3 characters in a unit, he would consider commandos for this distant management control that he's going to demonstrate here. So Unit 1, he has Vulcan Heastan with the Company of Heroes. Unit 2, we have Adrax Adatone, a lieutenant, and then a Blade Guard veteran unit. We have a captain, 1 big brick of Infernus, 5-man unit of Intercessors. We have a drop pod with another 2 5-man units of Infernus, Land Raider Redeemer, double land speeders. I think these are the newer ones. Oh, triple land speeders, and then double storm speeder hammer strike. So enough movement on this list and flamer potential where the initiative and Overwatch and double max deletion is going to be an issue because of the stratagems they have. They can just turn it to devs and then they can re-roll it. Vulcan can give buffs on it as well, so your units take more damage. So you can just straight up delete 20-man units of boys. So what happened here is that because he understood that the opponent had drop pod and 10 flamers in there, he knew that he just couldn't wait, as in Damien couldn't wait. So he took his weird boy and 20 boys and he just did the jump across into the middle of the battlefield. Then he used one of his Gretchens and made a wall of bodies. So of course he still had the 9-inch coherency, but he made a wall of bodies with 50 boys roughly, where he used a 20-man unit of boys, a unit of Gretchen, then another 20-man unit of boys. And then he used the middle terrain piece and put all 3 of his Killy combo bricks within it, behind it. He pre-measured, so it was 12 inches exactly from all his units, so you can't flamer them. So he took up all the middle space, said that if you come within range of standing within range of these guys or anything like that, you still cannot shoot my staged up killing units. He said also from what he did is he sacrificed his WAAAGH by yeeting him forward, and he was able to kill 9 Marines between shooting and combat, and then tag a land raider. He also made a charge with his weird boy unit that tagged an impulsor, and a speeder, and a land raider. So when the enemy came out with the salamander, on his turn, he killed 40 boys, but he couldn't kill any. He couldn't move out of his deployment zone fast. So mind you, he made it to jump right away. Made a charge off of that. WAAAGH went forward, made a charge off that. The other dudes just stood in his place. Those dudes all got deleted. And then when they all got deleted, it left enough time and space so that the remaining 60 boys with all their characters and a big wall were able to run out and crash into him. He said that the enemy salamander didn't even get a chance to touch his natural expansion. So yeah, I mean, last time I played salamanders, this is how I had to beat them too, because of how much damage they do. You do need to like hold them in spots. So that was fantastic, but nothing like this. Amazing score, crazy, overwhelming, and got, you know, really nerve-wracking, right? When you're like, oh, I gotta risk all this just to be in potential to crash into him. And then when you're rolling the dice, you're like, dang, I hope you die when I actually hit you with this. So yeah, great job, Damien. And then we moves into his 4th matchup. So you guys all still with me? What's up, y'all? So then we're going to his 4th matchup, which is into Tau Empire. So this was Purge the Foe with acquisition and retaliation. So we have a commander in battle suit. We have some knife fight battle suits, a cold start with battle suits, an ethereal, a twin lance, knife fight battle suits, starside battle suits, ghost keel, Kroot riders, some pathfinders, 2 of those, double riptides, a sunray gunship, double stealth suits. So of course, Tau reigning supreme currently in the meta. So for this one, he said it was a similar mindset to dealing with the salamanders. Serious damage. The burst cannons were a big deal. So win condition was very similar to the same, where he said I just had to push him. He used his WAAAGH turn 1, advanced him forward. He had the Docker rig come out too, kill 10 pathfinders. He made, again with the boys, he used to make a kind of a line in the middle and stayed the other boys within hidden terrain and pre-measured them so that none of the volume units could actually make contact with them. He placed WAAAGH in a way that that his cold star suit couldn't really make a counter charge in and land. But nonetheless, he himself got a 9 off with his WAAAGH and killed 2 units of suit. When the enemy came out, he had to kill all of the Cooper screens, but he was also screening with his guiding unit. So in response, he said he just wad into those units, killed half of his army, but then his damage wasn't enough and he wasn't able to push out of his deployment zone. So again, he's using his WAAAGH, he's using his his weird boy with his 20 boys and what other units he can actually made it up to midfield sooner to create that spacing measuring so the enemy can't land within range to, you know, toe in on the terrain and shoot him, for example, and such. So he's forcing him to shoot the units that he wants to while he stage up all his more key and fundamental units. Like I said, if he had commandos, he said he would have just used commandos more for that if he could as well. So then he pulled out another 100 point there. He said, I mean, never really left his deployment zone after that. And then he goes into his last game, which he said he was familiar with this git and that he was a team member. So he doesn't have the guy doesn't have the list here, but he said that this guy was in a 30-game win streak. He won multiple GTs and events. He said his list was a Warp Forge, double Defilers, 3 Forge Fiends, 12 robot with a ton of damage. He said on turn 1, he killed some robots. Once he yeeted up 40 boys forward and staged the 60 behind, the enemy can respond. And then he able to run WAAAGH forward, kill a Forge Fiend, and kill some robots. And then turn 2, he did his full commitment on the WAAAGH, and it was kind of over from there. Personally, I've had some T-Suns experience. They do have crazy damage, but they're low on OC. They're not super fast in those ways either with those units. You know, they're kind of taking their staging positions to deal tons of damage to you. But once you do make that wall contact overwhelm them with boys, they're just simply not really scoring. And it's really messing up their primary game. And once they start losing some of these elite units, they don't have the damage either. So great job there. Nothing left to be said. Straight 100s field with all his boys. Like I said, if he was to switch this up, he can simply swap out some characters, maybe the Docker rig, throw in some commando units, but still keep the 100 boys. All the war boss, the pain boys were amazing to regen dudes, and then the weird boy for the games that he couldn't stay back, he had to commit to taking space, threw 20 boys forward. It did take enough commitment from the enemy that he could still respond and be devastated. So fantastic job. Orcs coming out right now into the meta hot. Definitely so many different ways to pay. Also make sure you check out Damien. Make sure you check out High Stakes 40K, crazy editing skills, and stuff like that. So I don't know if he's going to be able to cover this. So if you see his videos, leave him love. Tell him it's come from WAAAGH Tactics, because we do love to get.
If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!